Hey folks, Ryan Gill here with Hunt Primitive. Today we're going to do a longer, much more in-depth video on taking a spall of our new KnapEasy rock and turning it into a completed arrow point. Ready to go, not sharpened, and so we're going to go through this longer video as opposed to the first one where we just kind of introduced it. And I'm going to teach you all the little nuances so you can drive some great flakes and make beautiful little hunting points just like this. Alright, let's get started here. So the percussion is not overly complicated. It's very similar to any other sort of percussion, but you notice that I'm starting with the more turtleback side up. So the side that's got a little bit of addition to it, that's the side that I start with down. We're going to start running some flakes and getting rid of that concave area first. And I'm just going to kind of work all the way around it. And then I will be able to talk to you a little bit as you watch me work. I'll talk to you a little bit more about it. So if you want to see the original video that I put up about introducing the KnapEasy, I'll show you what that looks like. I'll put a thumbnail up on the screen for you to go check that video out. And it'll at least talk about KnapEasy. And this is a good follow-up video, and then really we're going to take this and finish it out into a complete point. Okay, so as I'm just running percussion flakes, just like anything else, I'll tell you about it, and then when we start getting to more important sections, then we'll actually get in close and we'll look at all the stuff that we're covering. But you'll notice I worked all the way around this thing just in that amount of time. And you notice I never came back and really clubbed at any of this stuff. It naps really easy. It breaks really easy. Now, that being said, it does nap very easy. But you have to also remember the thing doesn't nap itself. You still have to have napping skill. And anybody with napping skill will also tell you that different people learn at different rates. So some people pick up a new material very quickly, and some people it takes a little bit longer. That's just completely normal, no matter what material. Just let's take something like Georgetown chert, which is one of the best and easiest shirts that there is to nap, and there's a whole bunch of people out there that really struggle to work it because everybody's a little bit different. Now, once they figure it out, then they're like, oh man, Georgetown's almost cheating. It works so well. I remember being one of those people. First time I tried Georgetown, I was like, I don't like it. I was like, not my favorite. And then the more I worked it, I was like, and then figured out all the little nuances. I was like, holy cow, this stuff is so easy. And I think you're going to find this to be very similar. So I do believe that it is a great, great material for beginners to learn on. But just like any material, you are going to have to put a little bit of time into figuring out what works and what doesn't work. If you just start bashing at it, it's going to be like any material, and it's going to blow up. So you have to really look and read what the rock is doing, and then you'll get more comfortable as time goes on at what angles and how hard you can hit stuff. Okay, that being said, I've got this now to where the concavity is gone, and in fact now it's convex. So I worked exclusively, short of maybe one or two little platform hits, but I think exclusively on the bottom side first. So with the bottom that's now convex, now the way that we design these spalls is it starts to highlight new platforms to start working over the ridges on the turtleback. And I specifically designed this spall after a whole bunch of different ones so it would teach the fundamentals of flint napping. So after you learn to get rid of a concave base, which is something that nappers need to learn how to do. You have to remember with this KnapEasy, one of the reasons, not only is it an easy material to work, and it's something that you can waste because we can make it in great volume without depleting a really, really valuable natural resource, but it is specifically designed to teach you different aspects of flint napping. That's part of this. And so it's a teaching tool. So because this convex belly is the way that it is, you have to learn to deal with convex sections in any rock that you're going to knap in the future. So as you start to read how the rock can come in without trying to drive big step fractures or hinge flakes in here, you're going to be able to not only smooth this out, but then actually make it convex or rounded. And then once you've done that, you're going to notice that there's a whole bunch of different platforms that we've put in here for you to now be able to work up, isolate, and drive over. So now that's what we're going to teach you moving on from this point. Also keep in mind we are going to have some different color options rolling out in the future, but the KnapEasy Original is probably, which will be the white KnapEasy Original, probably going to be the cleanest, purest that there is. It's a little bit more boring in the color option, but it'll probably be the cleanest. The other stuff's pretty darn clean, but I think this will be the purest version because it won't have any other additives, and it will probably be a little bit cheaper than the color stuff just because of all the extra steps and additives. So anyway, let's go ahead and work on developing a couple of these platforms. So you'll notice I took some short choppy flakes around this one here, and we raised it up. If you can see it, I'll move it around a little bit so you kind of get an idea. We established a bigger platform here, and then you got this larger platform here on the back. Okay, so typically you're gonna, most people, the way that this lays out naturally, you're gonna start taking this back section that's got this highest ridge, and for the most part, you don't have to, but most people are gonna end up seeing this platform, and we're gonna wanna take little short choppy flakes, not abrading with them. What we're trying to do is raise that platform like we talked about in the flint knapping for beginners video. So again, I always like to plug that video, especially if you just happen to be somebody that's come along and said, man, I'm interested in flint knapping, I'm going to watch this. This is a little bit more advanced. We're skipping over all the basic mechanics of flint knapping. So you're going to want to look for the video. I'll drop a screenshot up on the of the thumbnail up on the screen so you can see that flint knapping for beginners video. That has helped a tremendous amount of people learn flint knapping and the basics of it. Sit through it. It's an older video, but the information is sound. Okay, so you see how I took all these choppy flakes off, and now it's worked this platform up. And so it doesn't have to be completely, fully isolated to this side. This is fine. If you look down the center line, this is just over the center line of the overall piece that we're working. I'm going to take a pretty good abrasion on it, and now you can run a longer flake that runs right across the top and start taking that ridge out. So you don't have to, remember, you don't have to take a big hit with this stuff. A nice easy tap, firm with the wrist. If you're doing it with your elbow, it's probably too hard. You'll notice when I hit stuff, a little bit of elbow, but a lot of wrist. Okay? And make sure to remember to abrade in between. And you can take a little bit more firm of a hit. So you notice I worked onto the one side and we ran another long flake. A lot of issues that people have with any sort of flint knapping is they try to take the whole thing off at once and take one big pow and try to flute and thin it. Remember, it's little pieces at a time. We were able to run this all the way up to here on that secondary platform. So now we can come up and start working this ridge. But before I do that, I'm probably going to pop over and try to get a little one right there, which is going to isolate that platform. Whoop. See, now I don't hit it again. Just like anything, if you make a little mistake or something, you don't get a clean hit and it kind of crushes, you end up messing up your platform. This is where a lot of people go into this and say, okay, well, just keep hitting it. Hit it again. Hit it harder. And it's, nope. Set the platform up. Okay? And especially with this KnapEasy rock, it pressure flakes pretty easily and it'll crush well. We're going to talk about specific pressure flaking later because you're going to want to abrade really well when you're trying to drive flakes. When you're trying to crush, you don't want to necessarily abrade. It breaks really clean when you abrade, but if we're crushing to raise a platform, we don't really want to run long clean flakes. Okay, so I made a new platform, abrade that off. Nice easy tap, see? And ran it all the way up there. So there's a little step fracture there. That's normal, happens in knapping all the time. Totally normal. This material is going to act like rock, and it's going to step fracture in different spots. You just work it out. Better nappers than me, I'm sure, can even avoid a lot of that. So remember this one here that we set up is one of the first ones that we did all the nibbling and flakes and raised the platform. So now we're caught up to that. That's our high spot. And just a little tap. Nice little tap, ran across, and then I've got one more here we're going to do. That's good. I goofed that just a little bit. I got too much of it and actually ran a secondary one in there, but that's okay. We'll have no problem with that. I'm going to pop back over to this side. Just do a couple little cleanups. See, this stuff breaks real easy. It's when, if you don't have any type of nap and you don't set up your platforms, then you're going to have to hit it harder and harder and harder. And if you hit it harder and harder and harder, you're being an efficient napper, you're just blowing through it. And this stuff will tell on you. So you get too aggressive with it and it won't travel. Now, a spot here, you're going to notice there's a whole bunch of extra little step fractures I just kind of ran into. Okay? It started to crush. Instead of continuing to hit there, you don't hit there. We're going to come back to that here in a little bit. Now there's another little platform here. I'm going to try to get lucky on it, but I have a feeling it's going to crush and do the same thing, but we'll see. Nope, it actually ran right over top of it. So, see, we got lucky. Now we're going to switch back over to this platform, and I'm going to raise it up with my pressure flaker. And we have the tools, the exact tools that I'm using here today. I've got a kit that goes with the KnapEasy, so if you don't know exactly what the best tools are for that, you don't need the big bopper with this stuff. The medium and the small one work really good. And then I've got this XL flaker and then my standard flaker. But those kits are available. You can buy all the tools if you want to. They all come in handy at different times. Okay. Nice easy taps. See, I ran that one across center. That was a good one. Alright, we're really starting to... Okay, now we're coming back to that spot. Remember I said we'll come back to that in a minute. Now that we've taken a couple flakes off of this side, we're going to build that platform back up where I had that goof and I got all those little step fractures. We're going to braid that off really good. And get you a little better idea there. So that's all those little step fractures. So I'm going to hit a little higher on the platform here. Not a big hit. Whoop, I actually did it again. Okay, so it followed those same ones. That's just me making mistakes. That's normal. So let's go ahead, clean that back up. I'm going to come in from the corner now. That's why there's plenty of room in these spalls. Plenty of room to make a few mistakes. I always rush through and usually make a few. So now we're going to come in from the back. So I raised that platform. Now, we're probably not going to run super clean because we've got a couple different ones, a couple different step fractures here. But what we're going to do is try to run right up into here and at least clean some of this up. Ooh, man. There we go. Alright, look at that. Nice clean flake. Can't get it off there. I want to show you. So we really cleaned up a lot of that. Now we just have one tiny little step fracture. So I actually cleaned up a lot more of it than I thought. But again, there's a little key of notice here. Remember, none of these hits I wailed back on. If you're hitting it like that, you will probably blow it up. This rock will definitely teach you technique, and it does break really, really easy. But that doesn't mean you can be a sloppy napper. You got to pay attention to what you're doing. But once you get the hang of it, boy does it nap nice. Boy does it run a nice flake. So we've got some mostly good reviews. I don't think anybody's given me like a really bad scathing review on it. But some people are like, it's a little tougher than I thought that it would be. But that's, well, of course, why it takes a little bit of time and why we do a video like this to help walk you through it. There's been a couple people that have picked it up and then just immediately have run with it. Mark Harrison's a pretty new napper overall, but he came and got some stuff, and he's been doing really well with it. And lots of other guys. Joe McConnell has been working it almost exclusively here lately, and he's gotten really good with it. And of course, I've been busy making a whole bunch of it. So this is the first time I've really been able to sit down to do a video to teach you guys about it, because we sold so much at first I had to go into overdrive building, which is a good problem to have. There we go. Okay. Got most of the little problem areas out that I wanted. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of keep hitting it, because we're getting closer into that size that I'm going to want for an arrowhead, still a little bit bigger, I'm going to switch over to the pressure flaker. I think this is where a lot of times people say, okay, well, I want to keep driving flakes, and they try to drive them all off. Well, you need to go set up new platforms and grind them at this stage. So it doesn't have to be a perfect biface, but you can see we're in pretty good shape here. There's no huge issues. I want to clean this edge up, but this is best done with a pressure flaker. Same thing here. We want to isolate some of these platforms, and a lot of these platforms now we can take off with pressure. So this is, I guess this is a big key that I'm glad that we can stop and talk about, is a lot of people, when they're working a harder rock like a flint or a chirp, they would still look at this and say this all needs to be taken off with percussion. Now we can do some with indirect percussion, but one of the benefits of this is once we abrade it really well and set up these platforms, we probably will do maybe a little bit with the small bopper, and then also maybe with the indirect percussion. But for the most part, I'm going to show you that you can just take your big flaker and you can just drive these flakes. And so it's a really pressure flaking friendly rock, as long, this is a point of emphasis, so pay attention, as long as you abrade really well. Abrading really well, even in between individual flakes, is really important with this rock. This is that's a very specific technique that you need to remember with this. I always tell people, if you want to drive good flakes, when you're pressure flaking, like if I just grab onto this now, it's going to crush. Watch, I'll just go ahead and do it. Well, it actually still ran a pretty good flake, so that was probably a bad example. But I'll try another one next to it. See, it's going to blow up like that. So that's kind of the issue. Now, if you abrade that really well, we should have it a little bit more like the first one. See, it ran a really nice flake, ran all the way across. Not all the way, but about to there. Couple little nibble flakes. I don't need anything too far there. So I'm just cleaning, straightening this edge up a little bit. I want to isolate this platform, so I'm actually going to turn it over and take off the other side. I don't really want to abrade here per se. I'm just trying to raise the platform. Now we'll abrade that away the opposite direction that we want to take the flake off of. I'm going to abrade that way. Now, just for fun, this looks like a good one. I'll take the little rascal bopper, the little one. There we go. Nice little flake ran across there. Probably could have done it with the pressure flaker. Let's finish it with the pressure flaker. So that's an option if you work really well with the little boppers. That's a good option. So if we're going to pressure flake, we're going to want to abrade it really well. If you're percussion flaking, not necessarily abrade that well. Okay, ran across. Didn't quite make it all the way across, but it's enough. I can get most of it there with my fingernail. Braid that again real well. Another nice flake. Depends on how strong of a pressure flaker you are as well. I said everybody's different. Some people nap more like, you know, pressure flake in their hands like that. That's fine too. Crush that edge down. Okay, so here's how we've got raised that platform, if you can see that. So we're going to abrade this way. So we want to take the flakes off of this side, so I'm going to hold this side up and abrade down. And then, well, for fun, let's switch over a second to Indirect so you can get an idea how that looks and works. Again, you don't need any big hits with this. And your angles are not going to be real steep. Okay, you can run a lot flatter of an angle, and sometimes even back pitch it a little bit, because the stuff's going to grab pretty good if it's got, if it's been abraded fairly well. Okay, you'll get an idea on it. Just don't get too big of a bite at first. If you get too big of a bite at first, then you could drive it and create a step fracture. Okay, that one ran up to there, so it ran across that ridge. Remember, even with Indirect, abrade it. Actually had almost too much of a bite on that for a second. I backed off, but you can see I ran that one all the way over to here. Okay, nice long flake. Remember, it's just the different nuances with different types of materials. Don't put a big huge bite on it, because it'll dive in there on you. It doesn't need a big bite. Set that one up. Perfect. Just clean that. Whoops, dropped it. It's good though. I flicked it right off my lap, huh? Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's just switch back now. At least you get an idea. It does runs Indirect pretty good. So now I'm just going to do some general crushing to just start crushing it into the shape that I want. Normally I would have kind of already done that, but I wanted to show you some of the different techniques, and I figured having a little extra material on there wouldn't hurt. So crushes well. Maybe a couple little thinning flakes here. It's one of those little hinges right there. Kind of went in and curled up. Twisted over. I can run right into that beautifully. Perfect. Make sure to don't get too big of a rush that you don't want to braid. So I ran that one over too. One more right there. Okay. I'm going to raise this platform while I'm strategically grinding it into more of a triangle. Obviously I can, this side's pretty decent, we can work with that. This side's so round, we're going to want to take a lot of that out. I'm sure you can kind of figure it out by now that this is our point end, that's our base. So really I'm just crushing, and then we're going to work on the final thinning it out. And the reason that I'm waiting till now to really get it to its final thin out stage is because we've really tried to work all the convexity and all the ridges and stuff like that out. So we're in pretty good shape overall to start setting up those final platforms to just do our thinning flakes. Alright, so we're going to run this platform here. We're going to work on thinning it over here. Do have to be careful of that little hinge right there I made. So it just kind of curled and then it just rolled right up. This side's all just going to be pressure, so we don't have a whole lot to do there. And as we get closer, I'll probably just pressure there and maybe some indirect here. I think I might hit that yet with the bopper and see how it feels to me. That went pretty good. Didn't love it, love it. That might be a little too aggressive. No, it was good. It was good. It took that little bit of extra abuse right there, right? See that? So that was that big thick spot that I said we needed to work on thinning that, and had to be careful of that little hinge spot. Take just a couple little taps out of that. Ran over part of that hinge right there. So we've got that. A couple little cleanups. I'm going to switch, I think, now. back to Indirect. I'm going to come over here on the other side of this and start working that, trying to run a good thinning flake. Okay, let's see that? How far we ran across that tip. So Indirect is very, very efficient on this when you figure out the angle. Remember, with the Indirect, not as big of a bite as you think. A lot of times, you know, you're setting up to take a percussion hit and you're putting a little bit of back pitch on this trying to get a good bite. Or, you know, pressure flake and you're trying to roll it together. And this stuff, you may actually want to have some negative pitch on it, but you're just going to have to figure out what angle works best for you. Also, sticking it directly onto the side and getting just a tiny bite isn't going to drive as far of a flake on this stuff. You're actually going to want to set it up on top of it a little bit. So, for example, here, that focus, most of the time we're just pressed in here really close, and that's enough to grab it. On this example, you may want to set it up on the platform just a little bit higher. And obviously, if it's only if it's kind of crushing on you, then you're going to want to abrade that a little bit. See, so I'm a little bit higher on this platform now, and remember to kind of not put as much bite into it. And again, we ran another one right up in there to center. So it'll take a little bit of practice. Sometimes I have to remind myself too that this is a very easy working rock, and that when you overpower it, you actually hurt your flakes rather than help. So another nice one that ran up to here. I'm going to braid this off a little bit. Maybe try to get one more good one right there. Ooh, it didn't take. Right. Not going to push it. A pressure flake on this side. Get rid of some of that really rounded platform. It's almost too hard. So that doesn't matter any material. When you do that, when you try to remove a flake and it doesn't want to go, it's for a reason. That doesn't mean hit it harder. It means reestablish your platform. That's a good one. Ran that one just over center and really caught up into this other side. We might try to get one more on that spot. Maybe two, but probably just one. Beauty. Yep, same deal. We pretty much running that same tiny little ridge. And I think that's enough. We're obviously going to need more right here, but not right now. We got to come back and actually start cleaning up some of this a little bit now. But we definitely thinned that tip out a lot. We were a little on the thick side with that. So let's swap this back over. We're just going to continue to crush it into the shape that we're looking for at the same time as we're raising platforms. So we still have this little bit of a, it's not a stop and hit step fracture. It's kind of like it went in there and then rolled up and broke. So it's actually a little bit undercut. We could probably, as we get closer, maybe do it right now. Take our micro flaker. We'll try it because I can actually get up under it. So I'm going to get up under it here. Yep. So we just pop that right off. Probably not a bad time to get rid of it, even if we can't get all of it. It's not all wanting to come yet, but maybe that'll help. Might actually try the heavier copper one. There we go. That bit. See? There we go. Okay, we clean that up a little. Perhaps stop our flakes from traveling into there when we're trying to drive them. And now I'm going to clean that up just a little bit with the smaller flaker. Make sure that, again, you braid it really well. At least bring you in to show you that. See how we caught into that? Just a little high spot right there. Just a little one. No big deal. And we'll pop that one off. It's gone. We just chased it up. So we'll do the same thing there in a minute. preserve the tip on our smaller flaker, we'll switch back to the big one. See, that was nice. Very good, very good. Kind of running across, we're hitting that little ridge here on the other side of it, so before too long we're going to raise this platform and we'll catch it up to there. We're thinning it out pretty nicely, and actually before I get too far, so far the points it's longer than I want. I like to knock them down, you know, quite a bit shorter. So I'm actually going to work this base. I don't want to wait till too late and then put too much pressure. But since I'm pretty confident in where we stand at the tip, I don't think we're going to knock that off necessarily, or not very much. I can go ahead and get rid of some of the base. Sometimes I try to leave them a little bit long in case I accidentally nip a tip off. I can just narrow the sides in. But we're to that point now. I'm feeling pretty good. Just crushing and flaking. I don't need to take any hits on it. Like I said, this stuff folds off pretty nicely. And for those wondering too, if it naps so easy, if it breaks so easy, does that mean it's not strong enough for hunting? Nope, not at all. It's perfectly wonderful for hunting. It's actually still stronger than an obsidian point. We shoot stuff with obsidian all the time. It's very similar to novaculite or dacite if you've worked any of that stuff. And we just had a video that I posted about a few days or a week ago of Vastin and I out hunting, and I shot 2 hogs with these KnapEasy points and killed them, and they do very, very well. Alright, you can see we've really created a platform now on that base, and instead of, it's got a little bit of convexity right here from that one big thinning flake that we ran in, so instead of hitting that, having any end shock, I'm just going to start pressure flaking into that little convexity area. Braid and push. No need to be in a rush with it. Very important to abrade. Very good. See? So now we've thinned it out and got that base a little bit thinner as well. Still not as thin as we want it to be for a hunting point, but we are definitely closing in on it. And so this is the side. We're still going to have some cleanup here and some thinning here. May take a couple out of here quick. And then we're going to thin this side, raise a platform, and do some more thinning flakes. Just kind of walking in on it. Very nice. It's a pretty little flake. So in between every one of these longer driving thinning flakes, I want to make sure that you're abrading. That's going to make a big difference. The little flakes, you're going to know if it's letting loose, but those long ones, you're trying to really do something with it. Make sure you braid that stuff. Very important. That's with really anything, but especially this KnapEasy material. And in the future, we will be coming out with some different options, some different flake and spall sizes and whatnot. We're still building the infrastructure to operate at full capacity with this stuff keeping up. When we first put it out, I put that first video up, and I thought I had enough for people to test around with for like a few weeks, and I already had more in the making, but I expected it would be a trickle. We sold out in less than 3 hours, and I had enough that I thought would last 3 weeks. And then I realized, holy cow, I do not have nearly enough. So we then spent a lot of time and a lot of money building infrastructure to not only fill those orders, because not only did we sell out in 3 hours, but we continued to sell on back order. We ended up selling out for, what, about a month and a half. And I tripled the infrastructure that we had just so we could do more and keep up. So big thank you to everybody that's been so interested in trying this stuff out. And I think as we get all a little bit more used to it, I had too big of a bite on that one. I felt it right before I hit. Gotta remind myself, take a little bit of the pitch out of that. As we continue, I think we'll get a little bit better and faster at it, and I think folks will learn the little nuances. And it does. It makes some fine little points. We get some color in here. We're probably a little ways away. It depends on when you watch the video, I suppose. If you're watching it brand new, then yeah, we're still a little ways away from color. So don't be holding out just for color, because it may be a little while yet. We're still figuring it out. We want to make sure that it's really top quality before we get color out to folks. But it is in the works, so make sure you're getting this stuff and learning how to knap it and use it and get used to it. And then when the color stuff comes out, you'll be off and running on it. It'll be very similar. Some of the structure will be slightly different, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty darn similar to the original. Maybe slightly grainier on some of the darkest colors. Okay. Getting a lot more of a triangle shape now, aren't we? Still not as thin as I want it to be yet, but we're just walking it in. We're getting it closer and closer. Back to the indirect. No need to take any big whacks. Nice, just little wrist hits. That was a good one there. When I started back here, again, old habits kind of die hard. I had a little too much pitch on it and just kind of nipped that edge without running a flake, so I decided to skip ahead. Very nice. Doesn't hurt to abrade and study it a little bit either. Sometimes I get to rushing because I know that you guys are probably just waiting for this thing to be finished. But I do hate to rush through it and make mistakes. There we go. That one ran really nice. Little fingernail stuck on there. Man, that's really running across there really nice. Thinning it out some more. Getting up here to that spot that I oopsed on when I wasn't really paying attention. I'll try one. If it doesn't go easily, no, we'll pressure flake that here in a little bit. I'm going to come over to this side. I'm kind of thinking I need to set up a better platform, but I'm going to try one. Yeah, I'm going to set up a little better platform before I get too wild with that. Let's see. Crush it down a little bit. Definitely closing in on it though. But I take my hunting points really seriously. If you guys have been following the channel for any amount of time, you know that the thickness of the points, the uniformity of the points, all that stuff's very important to me. A lot of people, they get to a point, they'd say, it's good enough, pressure flake it out the rest of the way. And if I'm going to spend all the time building gear and all the time out in the woods trying to shoot stuff, I want to make sure that I've got the best point that I can make on the end of my arrow. I believe that is exceptionally important. And then you've got a lot of confidence in your setup when you get into the woods too, because I can tell you, if you go in and you look at your points when you pull them out of the quiver and you don't have a lot of confidence, that's going to be quite a distraction in the moment. And then you're going to question everything, and then there's a very good chance that in the moment of you taking your shot, you're going to have a loss of attention on actually delivering the shot, because you're going to look at your point, you're going to have some thought coming across in your head. What if it doesn't penetrate? I'm telling you, I've worked through all that stuff for half of a lifetime. So that's why I want, every time I pull an arrow out, I want to know that that is the best that I can do, and I have no question that it'll do its job if I do mine. Nice flakes there. Nice thinning flakes. It's so funny too that when I'm napping by myself, and I always it seems like it goes by a lot faster, and it seems like I end up getting thinner. I think what it is I take more chances because nobody's looking, if that makes sense, and say, well, you know, I want this thing really thin, and I'll take some real chances and thin them out. And then I get a little shy on the camera, not wanting to mess up. It's funny how that affects us. Even me, I've been doing this for a long time, and I still get a little oddly camera shy, even though I know I could delete every bit of this video and just start over, and none of you would be any the wiser. That's a waste of time to me, but I just don't like to do that. But I don't like to take as many chances. I guess if you guys seen me break one or two once before, I'll get through something and then I'll let you know, yep, I messed that one up. Start another one. Okay, another little point, as we're starting to get pretty thin here. I'm doing my like final pressure flake, like we're thinning. As we're braiding really well, you're going to notice, and I just did it here, this stuff runs a real good flake, so you may want to back off on some of the pressure. I just did an overshot right there. You'll run overshots with this fairly easily once it starts getting real thin. Okay, so you still want to have some good pressure and run nice flakes. Braid really well, but maybe back off the pressure a little bit, especially up here in these thinner areas. But yeah, we're thinning her out really nice now. Oh boy, that was pretty. Yeah, that one went all the way to 15th, 16ths of the way right there. So, I hope you guys do stick with this. And I do enjoy the feedback too. You know, even if folks don't like the product, I appreciate the feedback. I want to create a product that everybody really, really loves. And I mean, that's tough. You can never please everybody, I know that, but so far we've gotten nothing but good reviews, and then some people saying that they're a little iffy on it still, but I'm sure it's coming. Somebody will probably comment on this one and say I hate it, but you can't please everybody. But for the most part, friends and other flint nappers that I know that they will 100% give me good feedback. They're like, no, we love the stuff. So, may not be for everyone, but I know I'm really, really happy with it. But like I said, there's people out there that don't like Georgetown or don't like Obsidian, or, you know, they say that it doesn't nap very good. And I'm like, man, those are some of the best napping materials that you can get. There we go. We all have different preferences. Yeah, we're really closing in on that one now. Pretty good with that. I want to clean up, knock it down just a little bit shorter now, and then thin this base. And then we can notch it and sharpen it. Whoop. No need for any indirect or anything at this point. In fact, I probably shouldn't even be using this big flaker, but it's working. Oop. Don't forget to abrade, Ryan. Don't forget to abrade. Nice one. I am going to switch. Usually I get down to something a little bit smaller. I like a little finer point, something that I can focus in on a little bit tighter. And I do like a relatively small point. What's so funny is half the time I get done making these, because the spalls are a little bigger, what we started with, a little bigger than what I normally look for in like a regular stone spall. We made them that size so that we have some room for mistakes. But then I get the point done and I'm like, wow, it's just way too big. And then I finish the entire point and I still look at it, putting it in the air going, that's bigger than I like. I'll sometimes go in and chip them all back down, thin them out. I like a point that's big enough to make a nice hole, but they get too big on there and they don't do you any favors. All they do is slow down your penetration, especially with contextual hunting equipment, sinew strings and stuff like that, real wood bows. Got a little bit impatient there a second ago and didn't take the couple of braiding swipes that was required and ended up folding the flake. Alright. Really gonna braid that edge. Kind of do a final up and down on it. Hitting just a couple different platforms. Very final little thinning flakes. They're almost at the same time as I'm going down. I'm keeping in mind that some of these I'm going to leave sharp. I may not abrade those again. So as I'm taking like a sharpening flake, and not necessarily every one, we'll still go through and sharpen it, but as I come through I'm keeping in mind I don't necessarily want to abrade this anymore. Once I get these first initial flakes off, I got one there that wants to really push my limits. I'm just kind of walking down, last little thinning flake. Careful around the tip like anything else. Like I said, you can't snap the tip on this, you get too much pressure. Especially on any sort of a rock that's this hardness, dacite and evacuate, something like that. I have to remind myself, try not to take too many flakes. Once you've kind of getting it thin, don't continue to try to flake it. What we'll do is we're going to take the side of the pressure flaker and we're actually going to grind it. So when we shape the tip, we're actually going to grind that tip into shape. It'll be sharp enough within itself. All the cutting stuff's going to happen up here. We don't want a blunt, rounded nose. But I don't need to actually drive flakes across that tip unless I'm trying to specifically thin like a little tiny high spot out like I am now. There's just this little spot right there that annoyed me. You don't want to improve it to death either. I can definitely be guilty of that. Okay, a couple little here on this side, so we flipped it over. And boy, I'm tempted. I want to take a couple out of there, but I hate to remove any more material. I got it right where I want it. So, flick that. Yep, see, I didn't abrade that. I was trying to get away without having to lose material, and I just crushed it. Didn't hurt anything, but I'll save trying to fix that for when I put the notches in. Now, that's one of the things that you will probably notice with this, is because it really likes to be abraded when you flake it, that I want you to start paying real close attention when you start to notch this stuff. Okay? Take one quick little break. I'm going to get my notch and stuff, and then we're going to notch this and then sharpen it. Okay, so I got a micro flaker here. Now, if I had a complaint about KnapEasy, it's that you have to pay a little bit more attention on the notching. Might be a little bit more difficult. So if you do struggle with your notching, maybe start off with smaller copper flaker, and if it's legal in your state to hunt with them and you like them, I would start working more of a corner notch, so you're going to have a bigger notch area to work through, so you have more platforms to remove it. The side notches can be a little bit more difficult, but we're going to work through it together here and I'll show you. I'm used to, on a lot of rocks, I just power through them, and if you try to power through these ones, you'll either chip it out and make it too wide, or because you'll take too big of a flake out. That's what'll happen. You'll get going and all of a sudden it'll take you a big swelled flake and you're like, ah, crap. We may even do that. But then if when you're too gentle with it, it'll go blunt and you won't have a platform to grab a hold of to make your notch go deeper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take very specific little nibbles, and what I'm actually trying to do is create a platform to go the other direction. And so I'm actually kind of abrading all the loose stuff off until nothing else really wants to remove very easily. Then I'm going to come in on that platform and I'm going to remove a nice flake, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go, and so I'm actually going to like the far corner of that flake. Now I'm actually going to go on this corner and I'm going to do the same thing. So this is really how notching should be done in general, especially if you're not super good at it. It should be done in different stages, and then I'll work on the same thing we just did. Is I'm going to almost abrade with the tip of my flaker and raise that platform until nothing else is really coming off. Notice I left a little bit of room back here too, so if I need to cheat a little bit I can cheat it back, but then also I've got some room. I can come back here, I can clean up the base a little bit if I want to later. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to come through and make sure all that the loose stuff is off, so it's almost abrading. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in on this side. I'm going to remove, like, going this way if I can, and then this way. So I'll study it. In fact, I'm going to do probably the front first this time. And a nice flake. Didn't go quite as far as I wanted. Actually broke. It went in up here pretty good. And now we're going to do one going the other way. Kind of like an E notch, if you're familiar with that. So that worked out. Same thing now. We study it. If one side really needs it more than the other, then you can make that decision. Not going to take any big ones. We're just going to almost abrade and take off all those little loose ones. Now you're going to see it starts to grow in here a little bit, right? We're starting to get indented. Okay. Now's where you'll end up stalling it out if you're not careful. That's why it's important to do that abrading. So what you can also do is once you get your flaker in here, if you want to abrade it more, a lot of times the edges are a little bit of your flaker are a little bit rough. You can actually use that as a little bit of an abrader. Once it starts sliding off there nice and slick, you're good to go. So we're able to get another nice little flake out of there. So we're still doing that E notch. You know, I went this way first. If I need to take one out of the center I can, but typically I don't need to. If I just try to take one out of the center, it's either going to cup and you're going to take too much, or you're going to nip the ends off. So I try to go this way on one and then this way on one. So in this corner and then this corner. If it still leaves you a ridge, you can do one up the center, but very rarely does it ever leave you a ridge. When you come out here, it's making a larger flake this way, and then when you do this one, it's going to make a larger flake this way. So you can watch for a ridge, but I very rarely ever get one, unless it step fractures or does something silly. So there's our other little cleanup. Now, same thing here. I'm not going to just flip it over and muscle through it like I normally do. Nice, gentle, almost abrading flakes. You can still hear it crunching, and then you hear the crunch stop. Okay, very important. So you get through all that crunching stops. And then I'm going to look at it and say, maybe I'll go to the back this time. Ooh. Got just a little bit, so I'm going to run to the front. There we go. Tempted on that one. Tempted to try again on the Tempted again to try here on that back one. I kind of crushed it the first time. Ooh, did you hear it clicking? Like started to grind? I didn't even have to push. It ground and came off. So listen, don't just watch, but listen to what kind of flakes your point is making. Same thing. Work in here. This is good practice for any material, you know, but especially this one. Like I said, it'll crush and round on you. Get all the crunchies out. And then maybe a couple little abrading. We actually got a little bit of a center ridge in here now. So now I'm going to grab a hold of that center ridge. Look at that. Pop that out. You could hear the tone change. Could you hear that? I don't know if you guys could hear that tone change of basically saying that, there we go, that I wasn't on a good spot. We just thinned that one really nice though. Okay, so now I'm doing the same thing. I'm just taking out the little choppy pieces. I mean, we're in there pretty good at this point. Really don't need to take it any further, but I'm going to do one more little pass on this side, almost to try to thin it, maybe a little bit here in the center section, but I'm not trying to, I don't need to take this in any further, and I don't need to get greedy with it. That's a nice notch for that stuff. So you just take your time and it'll notch out. So I'll admit, that's my least favorite part about KnapEasy is you just got to slow down the notching. Some of those really harder rocks, I mean, I'm just click, 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 and then I just grind through it. And it seems like I can just kind of muscle it out. And this stuff, I have to be just a little bit more intentional. But you know what? It teaches you, again, I mean, it's not always super easy. It doesn't knap itself. But it does teach you a lot about technique. Sometimes it forces you to slow down. So it's not a bad thing overall. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing here on this side. One click out of that corner. One click out of that corner. I did not do so good on that one. I got a little bit of something going on there. But that's okay. I think we've got plenty of room. Yes, it dove deep is what it did. See how much we're actually able to chisel out of there without even removing any big flakes, which is actually kind of nice because it's making a heck of a nice platform right inside there to go the other direction. So I'm going to clean those sides up. Okay, right. Oh, that was a beauty there, huh? Look at that one. That was a beauty. One again going in this corner. That looked good too. Sure was. Alright, back to the normal plan. Nipping all that out until it stops crushing. Okay? You do that enough, you'll hear it when it stops crushing. And then you know it's kind of abraded out. This one might be a little tougher because I had that spot over here. Remember I told you I kind of undercut it, so I've got a little bit of a ridge. So I got to hope I'm on it right the first time so I don't mess it up. Yep, see it didn't want to go, so I'm not going to force it. I'm going to come in and try to develop around it just a little bit. Maybe I rushed it. I can certainly make some mistakes as well. Oop, got a little piece off of it, so that's a good sign. As long as we're still removing material, that's good. So now instead of pushing on it again, I'm going to come in and take all the little chippy pieces out. Yep. Try one in that corner. I mean, realistically, you could stop right there and it'd be fine. It's just not in as far as the other one. And it doesn't make a difference. It's just for the look and the appeal of it. So my suggestion would be if you got to this point and you kind of hit a little bit of a wall, don't stress it, just quit and go shoot something with it. But I don't want to be a quitter. Alright, so I'm going to work by it. Keep trying to grab a little something. So you'll stall it out. I stall them out sometimes too. There we go, got a little bit. All you gotta get's one little nice grab, create a platform, and you'll be back in business. Maybe I'll cheat off that back corner just a little. There we got another flake. There we go. See? Just had to be a little strategic with it. Cheated off that back corner, so we got another little flake. So we're going to clean everything up. Come in. We don't need much further. We're just about there, really. Oop, there we go. Nice one. It was starting to get a little bit thick in that spot. And very nice. See? Just had to take our time and slow down just a little. Alright, we'll grind that out just a little bit. It's looking pretty good to me. It looks nice. Alright, so now that point's pretty well done. We just need to sharpen it. Now, because a lot of times you'll notice we still have that one little, remember that little hinge from a long time ago? I got most of it. There was just a tiny bit left, and now that we've developed it, yep, I can go in and actually take all of that out. A lot of times I talk about going in and braiding first, which you can if you've got a lot of extra width or whatever, and you could go ahead and do some thinning flakes. But if you recall a few minutes back in the video, I was talking about that I'm doing my thinning flakes now, but I'm intentionally going to leave some of these sharp. That's why I'm not going through like I have on the other ones in a braiding hard. Is I'm going to take my micro flaker, and now I'm going to start taking intentional click, click, and then sometimes you will have to do a little bit of grind out in between your serrations. And if you want to watch the notching video too, it talks about making the points sharp. You can look that up. I've got a nice video on notching and sharpening. Just type in hunt primitive sharpening arrowheads or whatever, sharpening stone points. And then we talk about making these little serrations here. Okay, so that's, you get good at it. This stuff does get sharp, I'll tell you that much. Be careful when you start reaching in the box when you get this stuff, because you think, oh, it's probably not sharp. It'll have little pieces clung to it that are pretty darn sharp. It'll bite you. It'll bite you. So I'm going to go up and down and in between these little serrations. They're not big flakes, but I'm just taking little micro flakes, exposing a nice sharp edge. Oh yeah, that's a nasty one. That'll work good. Take a little click there. There. Oh yeah. Yeah, you watch that hog hunting video, you see they got no problem cutting stuff. No problem. It's the only thing that I always tell people with a den is the only issue I have is take your time on the notches, and around the tip we're going to grind a little bit more as opposed to chip. But then a braid, you have to abrade, and it doesn't take as hard of an angle. Remember, it naps easy, meaning it breaks easy. So when you're taking any of those hits, whether it's indirect percussion or percussion, you don't have to put that big old bite on it like you do with hard stuff. Take some of the pitch out of it, and you'll be surprised how far the flake actually travels. It's because we're overcompensating, because we're used to a material that's so much harder to break. We have to put such a big bite on it and take such a big hit. But I don't have it opened up yet to actually buy points of this, just the material. We'll obviously get there at some point, but I had to take care of our customers first and get their orders filled before I started worrying about working it and selling points. Honestly, I'd rather teach you guys how to make your own points. Anyway, I like to teach people how to do it, not just sell them the pieces to do it. So that's pretty darn nice. Now, instead I want to come in here, just grind that a little. It's going to strengthen that edge and really make that tip needle sharp. Well, that turned out really nice. And now that back edge, we don't want too sharp of a back edge going back into the arrow. It's not the end of the world, but I would say if I needed to take any out of there, I would, but it's pretty nice, so I'm pretty happy with it. Just to braid that off, and we're good to go. That's a hunting point ready to go out and do some pretty serious damage. Very sharp. That'll cut you open for sure. Nice tip on it. Nice notches. I hope the video helped, and I hope that KnapEasy becomes something that is a great alternative for you. And also remember, we still love natural rock as well. This is an alternative for learning and not being worried about wasting a lot of really nice resources that are starting to get a little bit more depleted. There was a lot of stuff that I was napping 20 years ago that's gone. You can't get it anymore. And I've watched that happen, and I talk to older nappers and they talk about stuff that I've never worked before that's gone. So I've watched it happen. We figured this was a good solution, good opportunity to nap. We start getting some pretty colors working in here. Not just one colors, but multicolored stuff. You're going to have a really nice material, and the stuff works really, really well. And there are some things too, some places like Arizona, that you're not allowed to hunt with stone points, but you're allowed to hunt with ceramic broadheads, and technically this stuff is a form of a ceramic. So you can use this to hunt in some of those states that don't allow stone, but they have an exclusion for ceramic edged broadheads, like, you know, like ceramic knives and whatnot. So this is just kind of a little loophole to that system. But anyway, there you go. You got it right there, ready to fire off. Hopefully that helps you.